Hi, everyone. My name is Rimeike, co-founder of Quantum Cybersecurity Skills. We have our first guest in 2022, Andreas von Grebmer from CISS in Switzerland. And today we're going to discuss about cybersecurity soft factors, information accuracy, why it's needed, what are the areas of cybersecurity we are not normally taking into consideration, but we should. So Andreas has prepared fantastic slides. And Andreas, please introduce yourself, your business.
Okay. I'm not able to share, so.
Yeah. Good.
Oh, now I can share. So welcome everybody. I hope you see the screen.
Yeah.
So my name is Andreas von Grebmer. I'm 20 plus years in information security and in other roles, quality management, and so on. Currently, I'm working for CISS. We develop 360 in control, which is an internal control system, including ISMS, data privacy tool, and so on. And we incorporate some of the topics which we talked today about. They are already incorporated, and we try to make it a little bit different. So I assume everybody who's in the area of information security has seen these pictures and that this cartoon, and it shows somehow how what's the situation around the CISO often and how it's perceived. Today's organization also they are still set up like this in the global environment, so pretty structured. And then on the other hand, if you look at cybersecurity or cyber attacks or state attacks, they are pretty dynamic. So they're well trained. They don't care about organizational structures. They collaborate together, and they're very motivated. So if you're not into these soft topics, which a lot of IT security guys are, then maybe that's your point of exit. Otherwise, we're going to talk about some observations which we have done in companies, small companies from 10 people to 100,000 people. You will find some of these observations. It's not a scientific analysis, so it's some observation which I would like to introduce. And you can ask questions anytime.
Yeah. So
one major observation is that security people, but also and more so the C-level, so let's say the guys ordering the stuff, they're looking for a silver bullet. So they would like to have a SOC which solves all their problems. They never have to hear about cybersecurity, and that's it, or cyber risks. Or hiring a CISO is another silver bullet, or it's perceived as a silver bullet, which is not always the case, because you need also let the guys do what they need to do. Another thing is, which is very interesting, if you live amongst security people, you live somehow in a bubble, because there are two ways to convince people to do something, or to bring people to do something. So one way is to convince them, and the other way is to fear them. And security, cybersecurity, compliance, and so on, they often work with fear. So you find cases of things that happens, and then you try to fear people. And the funny thing is the one in the middle, where how would you calculate a return on investment of 332%? So in average for a company. So that's somehow pretty strange. Another thing is the stigma of risk management. If you go into an organization and say, we have to do risk management, and people say, oh, risk management never heard, we don't do that. the funny thing is, if you then explain to them that they do this in everyday life, so they do risk management by choosing healthy food or unhealthy food, or by crossing a street when it's already red, or by choosing the sports they do. So yeah, they do risk management, but they don't call it risk management. It's just they are careful. So that's then part of the convincing people that it's not something very strange doing risk management or risk assessment.
And on that point, if I may just add, I completely agree with every single word you mentioned. The observations on our side are very, very similar. And talking about risk management, you know, some of the overlooked areas we see, and we are noticing with some more pioneering companies, they start assessing the health and well-being of cybersecurity teams. This is not what I've seen like 2 or 3 years ago. This is something new I'm observing. And the reason for that is to identify red flags early for potential insider threats. You know, if a person is burned out, unhappy, be it with management or the tasks he or she is performing, you know, there is the likelihood sort of associated with internal threats based on the third-party research. Another thing that we are observing, and companies starting to pay more attention, is processes. You know, though this area is also pretty much overlooked, but it's critical. It's not just, as you say, let's buy a technology, a silver bullet. In our minds, of course, everybody will say there is no 100% secure organization or environment, but it's, you know, it's not just buying greatest technology and thinking, hey, we are protected, or, you know, encouraging the organization start doing the security posture assessments more frequently than 1 year or twice a year, which is very great initiative, but they usually focus on technology risks. You know, as they mentioned before, they don't include the processes very often, or human factor, or even the business alignment, you know, cybersecurity alignment to business. And the thing is, we need to sort of create those additional layers of security that link to business resiliency, business continuity. Okay, so worst case scenario, we got breached, right? What's gonna happen, how this breach is gonna impact our critical processes. You know, is our business completely shut down for a week, you know, or you know, I'm talking about inputting those sort of invisible layers, additional layers to make sure we can prevent the business impact or minimize the business impact as much as possible. So that's that's the observation we are seeing.
I mean, funny is because what we get a lot of requests and do a lot of demos, and then people ask, yeah, well, can you tell us the pricing for your solution? And our pricing is based by number of employees, because everybody is to be involved in that. And even if it's just doing remediation, and then people say, yeah, but only, even if you have a company with 100,000 people, they tell us, yeah, but we only have 150 people using it. And we say, that's not the concept. The concept is a collaboration tool on risk management, on cybersecurity, where everybody can get involved. So that's basically reflecting what you say. And the organization need to rethink their approach.
Yeah, no, 100%. Let's continue. Very interesting.
Yeah, then when you talk to security people, the most important risks for an organization, or for them, is always cyber risks, which is somehow true because we're going into a digital world more and more. So cyber security risks are important, but if you look at cases from the past, if you look at the diesel scandal, so that cost 30 billion, and that was 2017. So by now it's much more, and that's not a cyber event. That it was basically a misconduct of management. So that's just to bring it into balance, what the risks are or can be. Then something else which we've observed is, and this is, by the way, from my holidays 2019. So I was on Okinawa
You had some
at
fun?
that time. Yeah, we were in Okinawa, so which was on this island below. So in Japan, they're very good. They're very organized. So in this case, you get TV news, and even you don't understand them, you can scan a QR code, and you get English information about the risks. But also, they are so good organized and have a lot of precautions. They got hit, so they lost half of their Shinkansen fleet because of the flooding. So it's also about expectation management. If you are prepared, it still can hit you, and it can still hit you hard. But when we talk about resilience, you should learn from that and get up on your feet very, very fast. The next one is an observation where people will most likely, I have always arguments about that, because they always tell me, how can you say that? The sea level, they basically don't care about this. For them, it's a disturbance.
Yeah.
So you have to sell it. And one of the, we come to that if you come to the conclusion, but one of the two key skills a CISO should have is communication skills and understand the business and convince them. Because if you work with fear, that's not going to work for a long time. Something else, if we look at good examples, if you implement information or cybersecurity program, it must come top down. If you do this bottom up, you're gonna be exhausted very soon. Because if you don't have management buy-in, and when we do consulting, I had at CISOs, they told me, yeah, we don't have management buy-in. Basically, you can start to work on your next career step, because you will never gain anything from that except your salary.
On this point, Andreas, again, to extend a little bit, so true about top-down communication. You know, we've been involved in a number of projects, helping to create communication strategies. So it's not just selling to the C-level, you know, but it's also getting the buy-in from the rest of the organization, not only strategical layer, which usually have the CXO level executives, but tactical, also operational. And one of the good practices, which I would briefly share on this presentation, what we saw working really well is start answering those questions. What's in for the organization? Why do we need to drive this security initiative now? What's in for individuals who will be contributing to this security initiative? It could be, again, it could translate into, upskilling maybe of your knowledge. It could translate, companies are trying many initiatives like monthly meetings or bi-weekly meetings, where the more you contribute to security initiatives, you have sort of more time to express your voice. It's like in a group, right? So the management and everyone will start listening to you. You will have more bandwidth to communicate your messages. The others driving initiative on badges, collect the badges and so on, sort of, again, initiative. But yeah, those very critical questions. What's in for the organization? Why now? What's in for the user? Very simple questions, but
and also
yeah.
to convince to make clear they own it.
Yes, true.
Because if for example the internet shop is down, that's a business risk, not an IT risk per se. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the next one is to a little bit to give the C-level little bit the benefit of a doubt, because they're sitting between the chairs. Because on one hand, you have the external consultants telling them how bad the world is, what can happen, about incidents with other companies, and on the other hand, you have internals who always tell them, yeah, everything is fine, because somehow if it's not fine, it has impact on their bonus. So they're sitting in between the worst case scenario and the good world, and they need to decide what to do. So that's a dilemma they have often. Another thing is when we talk about risk management, and if you take 31,000, the ISO standard for risk management, which explicitly say it's for experts only, which I find somehow strange, is this making the risk management process something scientific. So they talk about different causes which lead to an event, which then have this different impacts. I'm not so a fan of that, because you will never get all the impacts, you will never get all the causes. That's why I like to work with the full loss scenario. And that's something also business people understand. So you are coming in tomorrow, the building is gone, the warehouse gone, the transportation facility is gone, and so on. And from that, then you can better work on preparations on the resilient measures.
True.
It does not, I'm not saying you don't have to do this cause and effect thing, because some of them you are even legally obliged to. So if you talk about, for example, fire prevention measures and so on, which you have to take legally. But if you cover the case that you lose a critical asset like a building or an IT system or whatever, and if you cover that case, you will also cover all the minor cases.
Again, on this, Andreas, if I may, you generate some additional, your words generate some additional thoughts in my head. So on this, I think what should be happening more as a baseline, I mean, there should be more conversation business with cybersecurity. And by that, I mean, it's not in every organization where CFO, for example, has straightforward answers. This is the cost of downtime per hour to our organization specifically, and this answer could vary. Every business is different. It depends on the scope of the organizations, the size, and so on, criticality, what services you deliver. So there is no one answer, but again, what we are observing, there is no proper two-way communication with cybersecurity leaders and teams and business. It's the expectation, again, in again, as a baseline, is that cybersecurity has to bring all the answers, but the answers, accurate or more relevant answers specific to your business, is only deriving from a conversation, cybersecurity speaking openly with the business side that includes financial side, other critical parts of the services in the organization. You know, as they say, what is the downtime cost per minute, per hour, per day? You know, and understanding, you know, the recovery time, and so yeah, this is what again we observe in many projects when we are talking with our customers, and we encourage, let's drive it. You know, as you showed before, there is a breach, expect the full loss, definitely, but understand the full loss, understand the impact, not from third-party research, but specific to your business, you know.
But if you talk to people, because we also say risk management is a communication process.
Yeah.
But most of the people would like to have a scientific number. So my risk is 8.135. Because it's something they can say, okay, 8 is the line, and everything above is a high risk. Instead of just saying it's a high risk, they would like to have it scientific. But I mean, it's about identifying the risk and mitigate them and reducing them. And that can also be done if you just identify it as a high risk and not as a high indexed risk or calculated risk.
Yeah, very good.
Another thing which we always hear, which goes a little bit in the tool discussion from the beginning, yeah, artificial intelligence will solve all our problems. So I just have here an example. If you take this crash over the Lake of Constance, where basically two airplanes which are flying towards each other, they have anti-collision system, which a human disabled in this case, and that's why it's crashed. So somebody overrode the artificial intelligence. And that led to a catastrophe. And if you take the Hudson River landing, where basically a human did the same, he overrode the machine, and it was successful. And the machine could have not landed in the same way. So artificial intelligence is good; it will support, but it will not solve all our problems. That's my favorite one, because that's if you want to raise security in your organization, this is the easiest and cheapest thing. It's housekeeping. Clear desk, changing password, doing backups, all these things raises your security from 0 to 80%. But the thing it's not very sexy. It's better for people if they can say, yeah, I work on a new SOC project which costs 30 million. That's better than saying I've rolled out a housekeeping security program. What I want to say, it needs both, but this one is often neglected by security guys.
If I may, again, this is brilliant. I love it. And it made me think of this picture: brushing your teeth in the morning in pajamas, not sexy, you know, eating breakfast, you know, obviously you're not wearing, you know, a tie in most cases, but it's needed, you know, as you say, housekeeping, the basic, as also as in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you know, the very bottom line. So true, Andreas.
So I have a slide with basically with the conclusions. So the setups are always different. So there is no silver bullet. You can take concepts from others and adapt them and try them out, but there is no silver bullet. For a CISO, it's always good to understand the hidden agenda of all players. Because in some cases, if you have been hired just to fill in or to mitigate a finding from an audit, yeah, we have a CISO now, but we don't want to keep him away from everything, then you will not be successful. So you need to know the hidden agenda, and you need to understand the business, because otherwise people will not take you serious if you don't understand it. And I mean, if I mean understand, really understand it, have a deep understanding. So, you know, in production, maybe you need to know if there is one person who knows the formula to produce something, because that's your highest risk. If the machine crashes, you buy a new one. But if the guy has an accident and is never coming back, and he's the only one knowing the formula, then he is your biggest risk. Yeah, and you need to be strong in communication and convincing. And you also need to have your opinion and force your opinion. If you have the C-level is not on board, you will not be successful. And often, if you do changes, and I'm not talking about IT changes per se, I'm also talking about organizational changes, then they need to be managed, and they need to be maybe managed with others, like HR, for example. We have had companies, they said, yeah, we cannot do this because the contract does not allow that, the employee contracts. So that led to the fact that they needed to update all the contracts.
Yeah.
Because
Sorry,
yeah, if you wanna punish people for misconduct or for wrongdoing, you need to have the contractor basis, and then if you don't have it, you need to create it.
Yeah. On this note, I would like to extend some of the thoughts mentioned before, like, you know, driving a change, the communication, what's in for organization, for individual, why now? But to your point, it has to be managed. It has to be continuous, you know, driven on a continuous basis. Again, we observe a lot of assumptions. Hey, we're going to communicate this once, you know, from the CEO or CIO, and the magic will happen. No, the magic is not going to happen if you communicate just once. There has to be the whole, as I say, communications strategy, repetitive, same message, and showing everyone the change is being supported by the senior management, involve so-called gurus at specific organizational, you know, in specific departments, so they can attract more people to follow the change and so on. So yes, change has to be managed. Brilliant words. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then on the other hand, you always need to ask what is the danger of doing nothing?
Yeah.
Because yeah, you might spend 2 million for something to protect something, but if you don't do it, what's the impact? Because that's always can always also be a solution. Yeah, you need to be supportive. You need to teach the business how to observe things, and a CISO should be somehow a little bit an extrovert, so and position himself. For example, when we write policies for companies, one of the first things we write in the information policy is, if you are in doubt, ask before you act. And so they shouldn't have fear to go somewhere and ask. They should be encouraged to do that, which is somehow a cultural change.
On this note, again, you made me think of one of the cases we observed with one of the largest banks in UK. I will not mention the name, but the CISO didn't even know what was going on in the business. You know, the CISO's team had all the policies written, you know, about security and so on, but the gap was, and this is one of the overlooked cybersecurity areas, talked a lot, but maybe not so well understood what it contains, is the cybersecurity alignment to business. Are we covering, you know, is the business really understanding the cyber initiatives we are driving? how do we measure that? But because, as I say, in this particular case, CISO's team did many things right, but the problem was there was that gray area. He wasn't even aware what business unit was doing. How did they perceive cybersecurity? How the cybersecurity was embedded in that business unit processes was a big gap, you know. So observe, support, but also build bridges, test, you know, how cybersecurity initiatives that your organization is driving is really embedded in various units of the business. Is there a gap? You know, how do you identify those gaps, the unknowns?
I mean, to get a good thing to get involved, or a good measure to be involved, if you have the rule that CISO has a look at every project proposal, because that's the earliest point where you can, and the easiest point to say what needs to be done, and to prevent weak solutions which will be provided. So project management is a very powerful process to steer security. So what's also important is a network which you should build, because there are always with other companies, with like a CISO roundtable or something like that, where you can, without consultants, where you can speak openly about new topics, like what are the risks of, or what are you doing in the area of quantum encryption when it's when that will break old encryption. So how do you handle that? So you need to have a platform where you can share openly without any fear, because then one day you will be asked by your management, what are we doing in this area? Then you can have a give them an answer which is somehow validated with peers.
Brilliant. Mm-hmm.
Artificial intelligence, we talked about, it will help, but it will not solve all your problems.
No silver bullet.
No silver bullet. Yeah, so that was basically, they were not all observations, but I thought we were scheduled for half an hour. So we have some more, but I did not bring them today.
Fantastic. Well, Andreas, thank you so much for your time, for your expertise, for observations. I can say that be it on your side, because your business is originating from Switzerland, we are based in UK, and I think across the pond everywhere, those observations are very similar. You know, there is obviously a pattern to that, you know. So thank you so much. My pleasure having you on SOC Superposition interview. And
thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you. Bye.